celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9:30 on Friday, the 14th of August. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Well, the big news this morning, Nigel Farage wins the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
But the Reform UK leader did not attend the count, claiming that police warned of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you've tried to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Of inventing absurd reasons to avoid being humiliated, as Count Binface came second with over 9,000 votes.
And
breaking this hour, an investigation into Nigel Farage's donations has been reopened following his victory. The Labour Party chair, Bridget Phillipson, she spoke to GB News earlier today.
You know, there is no hiding place now for Nigel Farage on these really big questions that he refuses to answer. They're put to him by journalists, and he refuses to answer them even to journalists.
Moments after winning the Clacton by-election, parliamentary authorities restart the investigation into the £5 million gift. And last night, Nigel Farage tells GB News this: maybe I hadn't filled in a piece of paper right. Let's see how that plays out.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
Well, Britain buckles in the heat wave as more than 100 firefighters battle a wildfire in the West Midlands, and a train derails in East Sussex, injuring 20 people.
Well, firefighters are still fighting hotspots here in Stourbridge this morning. As we know, at least 6 houses have been completely burnt out, acres of grassland in what has been described as apocalyptic scenes here in Stourbridge.
And would you live next door to Crowber, or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
And there's been a migrant barracks backlash. Labour MP has called plans to house migrants at an RAF base in North Yorkshire unsuitable.
So, big by-election result, Charlie. We've not been able to talk about this by-election for a few weeks, Ofcom rules, but Farage has won that by-election as expected, a by-election that he triggered himself. There's something quite record-breaking about this by-election, though, which was the length of the ballot paper. 34 candidates. 3 foot long. Do you like my visual aid?
Yes.
There's quite a few candidates on here. Mark White, GB News. Ellie Costello, GB News. Charlie Peters, the Charlie Peters Party.
Oh, dear.
Does it have many members?
Oh, dear. That's a strange Zoom. Any
I'm showing off
votes?
my handwriting. Well, not so far, but you're probably...
to do this?
Our boss.
Our boss.
He should have been a Blue Peter presenter. I think that's
He would
quite
have been
impressive.
very capable.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad.
Anyway.
I thought it's worth. I didn't vote for myself. I was happy on holiday.
Absolutely.
All this by-election we couldn't talk about. I was limited in my capability of doing that by not being here. But I've returned now, and 9,000 or so votes for this bin face.
I thought you were going to say you were Count Binface.
Well,
that's where you've been all this time.
Yes, I'm a Radio 4 comedian, can't you tell? Natural BBC
Stranger things
character
have
that I am.
happened.
But here's the thing that's been quite frustrating for me, Miriam, watching along from afar the last week or so. It's just how serious people have taken the bin face thing. Now, for a lot of people, it's also been a source of great joy and a source of great humour for them. You know, we've just had a couple of intros and stories we're going to be talking about in this programme about Britain buckling under heat waves, about migrants being housed in military bases, all these serious issues. And it did seem as though the establishment sort of took this moment to go, oh, but look at this silly man wearing a bin. Actually, people want to talk about things that are really affecting them, not necessarily the bin guy.
But do you think maybe that's because people are burying their heads in the sand or hiding their heads in the bin? I'm not sure which one. But there are these really, really serious issues happen. We've also had record numbers of migrants crossing on small boats. Issues that the establishment, if you like, or the government doesn't seem to want or be able to sort out. And it's just too difficult for people to talk about. So they'd rather have a little bit of a joke, a little bit of summer fun and talk about this crazy election.
Yes, well, I think the joking can be a bit sinister if it means that you avoid talking about the things that people really care about. There we go. That's just my view. What is yours? gbnews.com/your say. Please do let us know.
But first of all, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis. He wasn't on the ballot paper.
Very good morning to you. The top story this hour. Well, leading the news this morning, Nigel Farage has won the Clacton by-election, but the parliamentary investigation that helped force him out has now been reopened. The Reform UK leader resigned as an MP last month after weeks of pressure over a £5 million gift from billionaire Christopher Harbour. 2 people are seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed near Lewes in East Sussex yesterday afternoon. British Transport Police declared a major incident there after 3 carriages came off the track. Passengers were trapped before safely being evacuated. The UK recorded its hottest day of the year yesterday and the 5th hottest day ever measured in the country. Temperatures hit 38.1 degrees at Kew Garden in West London as the latest heatwave pushes the country deeper into extreme heat. And that comes as homes have been destroyed and families forced to flee as wildfires spread across the West Midlands. Fire crews say they are dealing with extreme demand. A child and 3 firefighters have been taken to hospital.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
A petition calling on the government to stop the early release of PC Andrew Harper's killer has 1 million signatures today. Public pressure has been growing since it emerged Jesse Cole and Albert Bowers could be freed early under measures designed to ease prison overcrowding. Those are this morning's headlines. A full roundup for you at 10 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Now, to our top story, Nigel Farage has been re-elected as the MP for Clacton in what he says is an overwhelming victory.
Mr Farage refused to attend the by-election count overnight after Essex police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the results. Take a listen.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Well, this morning, the Conservatives have accused Mr Farage of inventing absurd reasons to, they say, avoid being humiliated. Also this morning, an investigation into Nigel Farage's donation has been reopened following his victory in the Clacton by-election. So, the question we're asking this morning, are we back to square one?
Well, I think we are in many ways, and it may all happen again, depending on the outcome of this Standards investigation. It could be back here in a few weeks' time.
Let's speak now to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Clacton. Chris, there's been quite a few developments this morning, least of all that electoral success for Nigel Farage. But just run through the latest that we have, because there's a bit of a row developing between Reform UK and Essex Police.
Yes, I got to the bottom of that, I think, now, Charlie, and morning, Miriam, from Clacton, gloriously sunny Clacton. Last night about 3 in the morning, or I should say this morning at 3 in the morning, Nigel Farage said he wasn't going to attend the count because he'd been told by Essex Police that his speech, what you might say, may have been disrupted. That then turned into reporting that Essex Police had told him not to attend. Essex Police sources then denied that was the case. Now, I've been in touch with sources today. What I understand happened is this. Essex Police did contact Nigel Farage and his office yesterday. They made clear they thought there would be a protest or some way of interrupting or doing something to disrupt any Nigel Farage's appearance at the count. And in a week, of course, that Nigel Farage has seen the funeral of Anne Widdecombe, this party is grieving, is very, very upset about security. They chose not to attend, which some might say is entirely acceptable. So it wasn't as though they were told not to by Essex Police. That's where we are with that. Last night, about 1 in the morning, again this morning at 1 in the morning, I spoke to Nigel Farage at this Farage Fest event. He said something interesting, I think, about this inquiry by the Standards Commissioner. That was started half an hour ago, barely 3 hours after he was re-elected as the MP for Clacton. It's into this gift from Christopher Harborne, a crypto billionaire, £5 million gift. It wasn't declared to authorities. Have a listen.
Look, this is an overwhelming endorsement of me. I have had enough of being judged by mainstream media, being called a criminal. Do you know, if I've made one sin, it's I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I've broken no law, I've broken no tax law, I've taken no public money, I don't even own a motorhome, all right? And, you know, maybe I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I'm confident I'm right. We'll see where we go.
So that language, I think, is very, very interesting, Charlie and Miriam. He's saying there that he may have filled in a piece of paper wrongly. And I find that quite telling, because that's what a declaration is. It's filling in a piece of paper about a £5 million donation. Now, he says he's done nothing wrong. He's been made very clear he's broken no tax law. I've taken no public money. Maybe I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I'm confident I'm right. We'll see where we go. So I think we're starting to see some language there from the Reform UK leader, the new MP for Clacton, that suggests maybe something wasn't filled in correctly. Maybe that relates to the £5 million gift. But as he says there, otherwise no tax law broken and taken no public money. That, of course, will wend its way through the system in Parliament. If he is found, and we don't know the result yet, by the Standards Commissioner to not have declared this gift, if he's then suspended from Parliament for more than, I think it's 10 days, that will trigger a referendum here of local people in Clacton, and if they want a by-election, they'll get another one. I think his party and Reform Party in Clacton is in a better place now. They spent the past 38 days finding out where Reform voters live. They couldn't do that back ahead of the July 2024 general election because there was no time to do that. They are now in a better place, I think, to take the fight to any mainstream party challenging Nigel Farage again. It is possible that we are all here again before Christmas.
Christopher Hope, thank you very much for that report this morning. I hope you can get some sleep at some point today. Well, we're joined now by the Reform Mayor of Basildon, Sam Journet. Sam, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Britain's Newsroom. Now, 7 or 8 weeks ago, Nigel Farage was the MP for Clacton. Today, he is again the MP for Clacton. What exactly has been achieved by this expensive by-election?
Well, I think we have to be very, very clear that Nigel has always championed the people. And when the establishment came after him, the people of Clacton championed Nigel. And he put his mandate on the line, but his critics wouldn't even put their names on the ballot paper.
And yet, he had no reason to stand down and call that election. It was almost an attempt to, I suppose, gain more favour with his supporters at a time when Reform and Nigel Farage himself are increasingly under pressure. And now he could face the same spectacle again in a few weeks' time if the Standard Commissioner finds against him, if there is a recall petition. Isn't this just an excuse for the Reform Party to gain the kind of doorstep data that would help them in the case of another fight?
No, did you know what? I completely disagree with that, and I will refute that, because Nigel Farage is a man of integrity. He has stood up for the people of Great Britain for a long time, and I think he has every right to put his mandate in the hands of the people of Clacton. And last night they produced a resounding result for Nigel Farage. I mean, the establishment offered Clacton a man dressed as a bin, and then the residents of Clacton decided to take out the establishment's rubbish instead.
Sam, is it not potentially quite embarrassing for Reform that the man dressed as a bin got almost 10,000 votes? Is it not the case that Reform would have liked something closer to 75% of the votes? It's a little bit lower than a lot of people anticipated based on the polling before the election.
Well, I think we have to be very clear. I think the establishment needs to be very embarrassed about what's happened here. In the previous general election, it was around 45, 46% for Nigel. Now we're looking around 63, 64%. And if the establishment and all the millions of pounds that they put behind Count Binface produced only 9,000 votes, I think that's a testament to what the people of Clacton really think about Nigel. And kudos to him. He put his mandate on the line, and the people of Clacton decided that he should be returned to Parliament as their MP.
Yes, Sam, there's no doubt whatsoever that he is very popular in Clacton. He was always going to win this election. But is the main risk here not necessarily his popularity in his constituency, but across the rest of the country, and that this move to call the by-election hasn't actually got rid of the main problem, which is that investigation and the wider questions around those £5 million? That, it seems, has had an impact on the popularity of Reform UK across the country, which is why, for the first time in over a year, the party isn't leading every single poll.
Look, of course, as soon as Keir Starmer was removed from office, or rather he resigned, there was always going to be some form of bounce because people were happy that he was gone. But if you speak to residents, especially across Basildon, and when I've been in Clacton over the last few weeks, people want Nigel. People want Reform UK because we represent the people. And I'd like to see another political party out there at the moment that puts residents at the forefront of every policy and everything that we do. I mean, even if you look at Essex County Council, we're doing a fantastic job over there. We've got fantastic ratings from residents because everything we do is for the people. And it's not just been seen in Clacton, it's been seen in Basildon, and it's been seen in many, many constituencies across the country. So opinion polls are opinion polls. But last night we saw the real opinion poll. We saw the people of Clacton go to the polls and overwhelmingly put Nigel Farage back into Parliament.
Sam, just quickly, what do you think should be the next line in Reform's strategy? Because clearly you've reached this kind of 25 percentage point in the polls, which is pretty impressive for a new party, but it does seem to have stalled. And though there are many people who adore Nigel Farage, as you say, there are also a lot of people who really, really dislike him and would vote for anybody to stop Reform getting into Parliament. What's your strategy to win over new voters who perhaps haven't made their mind up yet?
I think we have to look at the policies that we've been announcing over the last year, and especially over the last couple of weeks. Again, in the residents at the forefront of everything we do. And again, I'd like to bat it back to the establishment. What policies and
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. We appear to have lost the connection there. What a shame. But that's the Reform Mayor of Basildon, Sam Journet. Very good to get his perspective this morning.
Well, still plenty ahead on Britain's Newsroom. The petition to keep 2 of PC Harper's killers in jail has hit 1 million signatures this morning. We'll have more reaction.
But up next here, more than 100 firefighters are battling a blaze in Stourbridge in the West Midlands, which has spread across over 40 acres now. Quite something. Our man Jack Carson is on the ground. We'll have all the latest on that very shortly.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The hot weather is not just restricted to the UK at the moment. Much of Western Europe are under an extreme heat wave, and also some thundery downpours. Across the Canary Islands, though, it's much more reasonable temperatures in the 30s here with plenty of sunshine. Outbreaks of heavy rain affecting more higher ground parts of the Pyrenees as well as the Alps, seeing intense thunderstorms over the next few days. But more coastal areas should remain dry and bright with plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Yes, the Malaysian government has announced that it will renew the search for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, which disappeared 10 years ago without a trace.
Yes, the plane was carrying 239 people from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Previous attempts to locate the plane have all failed, leaving the families of those on board without any kind of closure.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to Terry Tozer, a former airline pilot and author of Confessions of an Airline Pilot, Why Planes Crash. Terry, you sound like the perfect man to talk to about this, because this is perhaps the biggest aviation mystery of our modern age.
Yeah, it is, and obviously a great tragedy as well. It's good to know that they're going to have another crack at trying to find it.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is just health and safety gone mad. It's not the role of public authorities to be telling people what's for their best interest. And the reality is it's probably better to take the chance of a tree branch falling on you than going out in the sun and getting getting burnt in the sun. But the reality is the reason why these councils are saying you've got to stay out of underneath the trees is they don't want anybody to get struck by a branch which they have a liability to, whilst they don't have a liability for anybody getting sunburnt. So it's all to do with public liability. I mean, if you look at East Cheshire Council, for example, in 2024, they had to pay out £500,000 because a branch fell on somebody.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In my hand, I have a colander. I have a piece of paper. Yes, there you have one too. So I'm going to run it so you can see me. So I think what you do is you shine, you indicate, you tell me what to do, and I'll do it for you.
You never look at the sun directly.
Yep,
you allow the light to go through the colander, and that'll actually act as a pinhole camera and project images of the sun onto the piece of paper, and then you can look at the piece of paper and see the eclipse take place. Simple as that. You can do it also by using binoculars or a telescope and projecting an image through from them onto a piece of paper. Yep. That will work just as well. Or get a bucket of water, let it settle, and look in the bucket of water, and you'll see the image of the sun in the water, and then you can observe the eclipse that way.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Now, a major incident has been declared in the West Midlands after a wildfire broke out, causing what has been described as apocalyptic scenes.
Well, the fire is believed to have spread around 40 acres, causing multiple homes to burn down, forcing residents to evacuate. Well, our national reporter Jack Carson is live for us in Stourbridge in the West Midlands for this. Jack, what can you tell us about the latest here?
Well, those specialist fire investigators and police will be beginning their investigations today, but also we know that West Midlands Fire Service are all still managing hotspots around this area. We know that at least 6 houses have been destroyed, acres, as you were saying, of grassland, and thousands of 999 calls coming into the West Midlands Fire Service yesterday as they had to respond to incidents not just here but around the region as well. Simon Marquis, who's chairman of the golf course, joins us now. Now, Simon, you were telling us that you were the first really to spot this and call 999.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I was actually the first, but I was on the course yesterday at 1:30,
and we spotted a fire in the farmer's field adjacent to the golf club. So yes, I reported it then, and then the 999 call was made from the offices here.
Just kind of tell us what you saw. What was the fire like at that point?
At that point, the fire looked to be a manageable size. It was spreading towards the hedgerow, but by the time we'd walked another 200 yards, it had set the hedgerow on fire, and the wind had picked up, and it was pushing the fire onto the golf course. We stayed on the golf course for about 20 minutes, and during that time, the fire took hold of the golf course and the woodland in the middle of the golf course, and it started to get really, really scary. So I actually made the call to evacuate the course, and everybody came back up to the clubhouse up here. And by the time we got off the course, a number of local residents were seeking refuge here because they'd been evacuated from housing because the fire had actually changed the direction. The wind had taken it up into the housing adjacent to the other side of Racecourse Lane.
And just tell us about the damage that's been done. I mean, we know it's at least 6 houses destroyed. I mean, do you know if it's more than that and the kind of damage that we've seen?
I mean, I'm also a resident here, and we were evacuated late yesterday afternoon. And when we went back to get some important stuff from the house, the wildfire was literally 50 yards away from our gates. We could then see across where the fire had already damaged. It had burnt down at least 5 or 6 houses at the bottom of Brunswick Gate, Lands Gate, and Quarry Park Road. And I am aware of other properties being destroyed on Racecourse Lane. So I don't think the 6 houses being destroyed is correct. I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing low double figures.
I mean, what do you make of the response from the fire service? Because they got here as soon as you can, but as you've just been describing, the speed and the way in which this was able to spread so quickly, I mean, managing it is a completely other thing, isn't it?
So the fire service were absolutely fantastic. The emergency services were fantastic. We were in dialogue with them all day. They acted as quickly as they possibly could. It was the scale of the fire that was the major challenge. I mean, it spread so quickly onto the grasslands and the woodland on the golf course and up into the housing directly behind us. They were overwhelmed with the amount of fire activity, and gradually during the afternoon, many more fire tenders were constantly coming into the area as they fought with the blaze. So a thankless task, but they were absolutely brilliant.
And just finally, just quickly, knowing kind of what damage is done, how does this feel as a resident standing here now this morning?
Still shocked, and I've used the phrase, it felt like Armageddon yesterday. And when we were so close to the fire, and literally the fire was 40, 50 feet high, it was just very, very scary. The saving grace is it looks like nobody has been seriously injured, which is great. But we're just starting to think about what the clean-up operation looks like for us, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild what we have here. Yeah. But my heart goes out to those people that have lost their homes, and when the full extent of what's happened comes out, I think it'll be recognised as a major incident. Yeah.
Okay, Simon, thank you so much for joining us and giving us that perspective from here in Stourbridge and exactly what residents here have been dealing with this fire that started yesterday.
Thank you very much for that, Jack Carston. Right, coming up here on Britain's Newsroom, Nigel Farage has won the...
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed at Junction 2 in Romsey, and the M1 southbound is affected by a collision between junctions 15 and 14 in Milton Keynes. The M40 is closed between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester, while the M42 northbound has a stranded vehicle between junctions 7A and 8 in Coleshill South. In Scotland, the M8 eastbound has queuing and 2 lanes restricted between junctions 19 and 18 at Charing Cross. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldowlod to Rhyada is closed. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway services and Southern services are facing disruption. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Friday the 14th of August. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Now, Nigel Farage has won the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
But the Reform UK leader did not attend the count. He's claimed that the police warned of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
Well, the Conservatives are now accusing Farage of inventing absurd reasons to avoid being humiliated, as Count Binface came second in the ballot with over 9,000 votes.
Breaking news this hour, an investigation into Nigel Farage's donations has been reopened following his victory. But earlier this morning, the Labour Party chair, Bridget Phillipson, spoke to GB News about this.
You know, there is no hiding place now for Nigel Farage on these really big questions that he refuses to answer. They're put to him by journalists, and he refuses to answer them even to journalists.
That's right. 3 hours after returning as the MP for Clacton, the 9th time he's tried to fight for a seat in Parliament, the Parliamentary Standards Group reopened that inquiry into this gift from Christopher Harborne. What will it lead to the future? Will it mean we're back here in Clacton in 3 or 4 months' time at another by-election?
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
Britain buckles in the heat wave as more than 100 firefighters battle a wildfire in the West Midlands, and a train derails in East Sussex, injuring 20 people.
Yeah, across the West Midlands there are almost apocalyptic scenes of fires breaking out. Here in Stourbridge, we've been told just now by a local resident that he thinks the number of damaged houses is in double figures, as the West Midlands Fire Service say tinder-dry conditions help spread the blaze.
Well, dozens of emergency services remain on the scene here following a long night shift. They're trying to work out how to get a derailed train off the track so that services can resume. That's as an investigation is launched into what exactly happened, with speculation saying it could be due to the hot weather.
And would you live next door to Crowber or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
Well, there's a migrant barracks backlash. A Labour MP has called for plans to house migrants at an RAF base in North Yorkshire unsuitable.
Wrong plan, wrong place. Stop the Linton-on-Ouse Asylum Centre. That's the message from residents here, that number 700 to see 1,200 migrants here would be a shock to the system. We've been speaking to residents throughout the morning and we'll have that later on.
That's what they're saying, isn't it, Miriam? It's got to be a fair distribution. This is the great line that Christopher Hope got out of Andy Burnham. See, he's had so many gentle media interviews. I thought the Prime Minister put in front of a GB News camera for a few moments and he said something that was splashed everywhere. Yeah. But it does, I think it points to an instinct. Everyone thinks it's good politics. I say everyone. People who you might expect have been saying it's good politics. I think it could be the start of the undoing of Burnham very quickly, because you've seen the sensational sort of perspectives in Linton-on-Ouse. You'll see this everywhere where that's being done. I think it's all too easy for people just ignoring this problem when it pops up. But as soon as you put a camera in these areas, people will be livid.
Yep, and for MPs like Rachel Maskell, who's spoken out many times about how we should take more refugees and asylum seekers, she's now feeling the pressure from her constituents who are facing the prospect of having these young men on their doorsteps. She has to please her constituents, she has to stand up for her constituents, but in doing so, she's going back on all the things that she's said before. But I think
don't know about that. I mean, I'd love to hear from Rachel Maskell, because a lot of MPs who oppose these plans say actually they are very welcoming of asylum seekers. They do want people to come in, but they just don't think it's the right place. Or they think, oh, we want more asylum seekers in Britain and we need to be caring and generous, all the rest of it. But we can't put it in this small village. Their concern is not the people. Of course, that's the concern people have. The concern is more about the location and the infrastructure.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what Rachel Maskell has spoken about. Not the right water supply, not enough electricity, rather than public safety. But I think you're right. Andy Burnham, this will be part of his undoing potentially, because people across the left and the right are fed up of this problem. And he's treating it as some kind of national endeavour that we should all work towards, which of course that's not what most people think. They just want protected borders.
Nobody was asked to share this burden. It's a burden that frankly shouldn't exist. Well, those are our views. What are yours? GBnews.com/your say. Do let us know.
But first of all, here's your news with Sam Francis.
Thank you both, and good morning to you. The top story this hour: Nigel Farage has won Clacton back, but the investigation that followed him out of Parliament has followed him straight back in. The Parliamentary Standards Watchdog is looking at whether the Reform UK leader should have declared a £5 million gift from billionaire Christopher Harborne. Mr Farage says he has not broken the rules, insisting the money was purely personal and used for security. Conservative MP Kevin Hollinrake says the by-election result doesn't draw a line under the controversy and the questions over the money still need to be answered.
Nigel Farage must be held to the same standards as everybody else in Parliament. That's what all this is about. His choice to spend £250,000 of taxpayers' money on a by-election, a fake by-election. There'll be, if he's proven of wrongdoing, then there'll be potentially another by-election down the track. If he's not, of course, if he's exonerated, well, we can all move on, and that's what could have happened in the first place.
2 people have been left seriously injured after a train carrying around 150 passengers derailed in East Sussex. The Southern Service was travelling from London Victoria to Eastbourne when 3 carriages came off the track near Lewes yesterday afternoon. Passengers described a terrifying few seconds on board, with one saying there was a bang before everything went topsy-turvy and the carriage fell onto its side. Everyone has now been evacuated and investigators are on scene this morning working to find out what caused that crash. The UK has recorded its hottest day of the year so far and the 5th hottest day ever measured in the country. Temperatures hit 38.1 degrees at Kew Gardens in West London yesterday, with several other parts of England also climbing into the high 30s. Amber heat health alerts remain in place today across England, with hospitals under growing pressure and millions of people facing water restrictions. The Met Office says this is the UK's 5th heatwave of the year, and the summer is on course to become the hottest on record. Well, that has led to homes being burned and families fleeing as firefighters have been taken to hospital after wildfires are spreading across the Midlands. Crews were called to major blazes in Stourbridge, Stoke-on-Trent, Pershore, Castle Vale and Stratford-upon-Avon. Witnesses have described apocalyptic scenes with smoke filling the sky, fires jumping across roads and rescue centres opening for people forced out of their homes. In Stourbridge, around 100 firefighters were sent to a huge grass fire with homes affected and people urged to stay indoors. More than 1 million people have now signed a petition calling for PC Andrew Harper's killers to be kept in prison. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole are due to be released next year, halfway through their 13-year sentences for manslaughter. PC Harper was killed in the line of duty in 2019 after he was dragged behind a car, as the men fled a quad bike theft. Andy Burnham says he is turning over every stone to try and stop their release, with 50 policing leaders also urging him to use every lawful option available. And Andy Burnham says that he wants to go further in cutting business rates for high street firms. The Prime Minister has already announced support for pubs, social clubs and live music venues, and says that there is more to do. Well, today he will meet small business owners in Devon, promising to listen to what they need to plan for the long term. Mr Burnham says that local businesses are the beating heart of communities and wants to look more broadly at support in the budget this autumn. Those are the latest headlines this morning. I think we've got a bit of a fly problem in the studio. I know that Charlie and Miriam are definitely trying to sort it out. Back to you.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Well, Sam, I can confirm that the fly problem has now been dealt with very firmly and he won't be returning.
Yes, that was a great sensation. Any sort of post-holiday stress I felt has been massaged quite aggressively with the murder of that fly. But I saw it this morning before we came to the programme.
It was definitely a murder, I can confirm.
It was quite a killing.
We might have to write it up in the accident book, don't you?
Yes. It's about time there was a murder in this room, hasn't it, really? It's another drama GB News needs. Mark White and Annika said they were holding hands this morning because this fly was upsetting. I think it was upsetting Mark very much, that was why.
It was quite annoying. I did have to bat it away live on air a few minutes ago. Thank you for murdering it.
Yeah,
At home, we've got something that looks a little bit like a tennis racket, but it's actually...
a fly swat?
Yeah, well, it's electric. It's electrolysed. It's got a battery in it, and you electrocute the flies. It's very exciting.
You don't need that. You just need the rundown from James. That's the real weapon you need.
Put it to good use. Well, moving on to the main story of the day. Nigel Farage has been re-elected as Clacton MP in what he says is an overwhelming victory.
Yes, Mr Farage, he refused to attend the by-election count overnight after Essex police, he said, warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result. Let's take a listen.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
However, the Conservatives are accusing Nigel Farage of inventing absurd reasons to avoid being humiliated. And this morning, an investigation into Nigel Farage's donations has been reopened following that victory in the Clacton by-election. Could it be back to square one?
Well, let's speak now to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Clacton, the nocturnal Christopher Hope. He gave a little, quite an interesting line to you, didn't he, last night, Chris, Nigel Farage, when he said, maybe I haven't filled in a piece of paper correctly.
Yes, I mean, we've disinterred that interview from 1 a.m. this morning, but you're absolutely right, Charlie. Not filling in a piece of paper is not disclosing information to the House of Commons and the Standards Commission, which restarted the investigation that was paused while he wasn't the MP for Clacton for 38 days, within 3 hours of him winning the Clacton by-election. Let's have a listen to what he said last night.
Look, this is an overwhelming endorsement of me. I have had enough of being judged by mainstream media, being called a criminal. Do you know, if I've made one sin, it's I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I've broken no law, I've broken no tax law, I've taken no public money, I don't even own a motorhome, all right? And, you know, maybe I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I'm confident I'm right. We'll see where we go.
So where are we? We investigated over this £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, this crypto billionaire. That could lead to a ban from Parliament if he's found to have misled Parliament. If it's more than, I think, 10 days, that will trigger a referendum amongst these people around me in Clacton. If they want a by-election, we're all back here again in a few months' time. Quite extraordinary. I don't think the people of Clacton want to do that. For my mind, I think they're in a much better place to take on that battle again. They've had 38 days of campaigning here. They know where Reform voters live. He didn't have that before the July 2024 election, the general election. He had a few weeks' notice before doing that. So they would say, bring it on.
Indeed. Well, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. I note you're standing in front of that Ferris wheel where you were trapped last night. I hope that doesn't happen again. Chris, thank you very much. Well, joining us now is the chairman of Reform UK, Lee Anderson. Lee, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Britain's Newsroom. Obviously, Nigel Farage has been re-elected. He's got a big majority. He took a good chunk of the vote, 62%. But a lot of people will say, wasn't this a complete waste of time and money? He's still the MP for Clacton. Everybody knows he's popular in Clacton. Exactly what question was this by-election trying to answer?
Well, first of all, the people that's saying, Miriam, that it's a waste of money aren't really speaking about the by-election in Makerfield, which I think was a waste of money. £250,000 for that, to allow Andy Burnham to sneak into Westminster and become the Prime Minister. And also, as a consequence of that by-election, it then cost another £4 to £5 million to have the mayoral election.
Two wrongs don't make a right, Lee, and you can criticise the Makerfield by-election whilst also admitting this one was a bit of a waste.
Well, I'm not saying it's a wrong, Miriam, but, you know, it's a bit rich from the other party to start bleating on. They put candidates up in Makerfield. They didn't see that as a waste of time. But this, as Nigel says, is a ringing endorsement from the people of Clacton to make sure that Nigel Farage is their representative in Westminster. And basically what they've done is they've stuck two fingers up to the establishment, and fair play to them.
OK, Lee Anderson, why did Nigel Farage not attend the count? Because there seems to be a conflicting understanding of the threat that may or may not have been posed to him between Reform UK and what Essex Police are saying.
Well, I mean, it depends which interview you watch, guys, this morning. I mean, Nigel was on the stage, I think, about 3:30 this morning at the Farage Fest, and basically said that he'd received information from Essex Police that there was going to be some disruption at the count. And now Nigel has a lot of security, as you know, and to my mind, what I've been told now is he spoke to his security, and they said it's too much of a risk to attend, and you know, to put up with all that nonsense as well that will come with 30-odd candidates and their representatives in the hall. And I think Nigel's done the right thing. He's actually spent the whole evening through to the early hours of the morning with his friends, his family, his staff, his campaigners, his volunteers, and Reform UK members. I think that's the right thing to do. It's a proper thing to do. When you just have to remind yourself that these campaigners that's been here over the past 6 weeks have come from all parts of the country. They've travelled literally hundreds of miles to get here. So we had a bit of a celebration, a bit of a shindig. It was nice. It was very well attended, so it's the right thing to be there amongst his own, rather than people, I think, like Bin Face have got along there. It was a bit of a joke.
But, Lee, isn't standing in front of your opponents and detractors what democracy is all about? Nigel Farage is the first by-election winner since, I think, 1981 not to attend a winning count, and back in 1981, that particular candidate was in prison.
Yeah, what opponents, though, Miriam? The Tories were too fit to stand. The Labour Party was too fit to stand. So was the Liberal Democrats and the Greens. There's no real opponents there. I mean, fair play to Bin Face and some of the others are putting the name on the ballot paper. But the big parties, the big beasts who want rid of Nigel, had the chance yesterday to stand at the ballot box with him and say, come on, let's have a go. They didn't. They were too scared. Nigel would have wiped the floor with them anyway. And I think deep down, that's what they suspect that would have happened. Nigel would have still got over 50% of the vote if the other parties had stood. So he's thrown the gauntlet down. They're too chicken, they're coward, they've run away. And it's a bit rich from this morning to start bleating on. I saw Kevin Hollyreek earlier bleating on about something. Quite frankly, he needs to be quiet. They all need to be quiet. And I can't wait for the first week in September when Nigel comes back to Parliament, and I'm really looking forward, guys, to seeing his maiden speech.
Finally, Lee, I just want to get your perspective on the amount of focus and interest surrounding Count Binface. It seems to me, from my perspective, there's been rather a lot of excitement about this guy, this comedian wearing a bin, and there's been a lot more focus on him, perhaps, than there normally would be because Nigel Farage is the candidate. That's just my read. Do you think that it has exposed a sort of a degree of a lot of people really looking forward to Nigel Farage, perhaps, you know, having the mickey taken out of him by a bin? Has it exposed something there?
That's just politics. You know, I learned quite early on in politics that 50% of the population will always hate you, whatever colour you wear. And the bin face thing, I mean, look at the votes he's got. It's got thousands of votes. And then votes would have come from the Tory voters, from possibly Labour voters, Green voters. And it just shows what sort of voters they are, what sort of people they are that would vote for a bin. A bloke walking around with a dustbin on his head saying silly things. We know he's a bit of I think he's a bit of an activist as well. I think he leans to the left. He writes for the BBC. He's actually a Labour supporter, or so I've been told. So, yeah, quite frankly, people going out there and voting for a bin, I think what they need to do is take a long, hard look at themselves in a mirror and, you know, just remind themselves what our democracy is all about. It's about putting the right person in Parliament to represent your views, not a man walking around with a dustbin on his head. What a load of nonsense that is.
Lee Anderson, Chairman of Reform UK, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Right, let's go and speak now to the Labour MP for Chesterfield, Toby Perkins. Good morning to you, Toby. Very grateful for your time this morning. Just first and foremost, I'd love to get your reaction to what Lee Anderson has said there, that Nigel Farage has got this stonking majority. He's got the support of the people of Clacton. Do you think this writes a line under the focus on Nigel Farage's finances?
Of course not. And we know that within 3 hours of the election being completed, in fact, the proper process, the investigation into Nigel Farage's undeclared donation began again. And that's, of course, exactly what should have happened. This was a political stunt designed to try and distract from the mess that Nigel Farage's huge donation has caused. And quite properly, the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner will not allow this by-election to get in the way of doing that work. And now we need to do what we should have found out 2 months ago, find out what the independent commission has discovered, find out what Mr Farage's response was to those allegations. His story seems to be changing. At one time he said he'd done nothing wrong. Now he's saying, well, maybe I forgot to fill in a piece of paper. So I suspect he knows that he's been banged to rights. And let's find out what the Parliamentary Commissioner finds when they complete their investigation.
Well, of course, the Parliamentary Commissioner should be allowed to do his job, and you're right, this is an important issue. But there are other very, very serious issues facing our country. Mass uncontrolled migration, the fact that we still haven't got a grip on the small boats crisis, the cost of living, for example, the energy crisis that we're facing now. And I think it seems to a lot of people who now support reform, who might have voted Labour or Tory in the past, that actually the establishment, if you like, is becoming obsessed with these ideas about declarations and whether you said the right thing in Parliament, rather than actually focusing time and effort on the big issues. This is all just one big distraction, isn't it, that allows parties like yours to ignore the real demand for change that reform voters are displaying.
It's total nonsense. I mean, we're spending no time in Parliament talking about or studying Nigel Farage's donations. This is an independent process, nothing to do with Parliament. Andy Burnham is concentrating on the issues that affect Britain. And you're right to say that the small boats crisis is a big matter for us. That's why the numbers of small boats are far lower under this government than they were when you were in Parliament representing the Conservative Party. But we do have a lot more to do on that. Politicians are focusing on that, and the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner is the person who's concentrating on whether or not people have broken the law. And it's very interesting. You now think it's a matter of, a matter of sort of establishment stitch-up to expect people who come into Parliament to follow the laws.
Toby, there is a lot of focus, of course, on a lot of those issues that Miriam was raising, but there does also appear to be this hyper-focus on the rules and the regulations surrounding political life and the expectations around lots of Reform UK figures. Do you accept that concern that a lot of people have, that this is a distraction? That's the Reform UK perspective, that this is a distraction away from some of those major issues, particularly in a week where Andy Burnham has said that more of us need to take on the responsibility of housing asylum seekers and small boat illegal migrants around the country. Do you understand that perspective being expressed, that it's a distraction?
The rules, that Reform being expected to follow the same rules that everyone else follows is somehow an unreasonable requirement. We have to declare our donations from whoever they come, so that people know who's donated money, and if they want to ask questions about that, they can do. I have to do that. Every other 649 members of Parliament do. Yeah. And Nigel Farage should have done the same thing. And it's not to say that you can't donate to political parties, it's just saying that people know who has done it and why.
I understand that, Toby. Imagine if you're a resident in Linton-on-Ouse right now and one party is telling you to care very much about donations while another is saying, oh, the government is going to house over 1,000 male asylum seekers in your area. I mean, it does seem to me that people might not care as much about this as you do.
Of course. Well, of course, you know, the issues that face people, whether that be the cost of living, whether that be the defence threat that we have from Russia and from other hostile nations, whether it be the small boats crisis or National Health Service, these are the major issues that all of us in Parliament are focused on. If you're the ones who are talking about Nigel Farage, you're talking about it because he's just had a by-election that he caused. This was a by-election caused by Nigel Farage for the benefit of Nigel Farage. And if he didn't want us to be talking about it, he shouldn't have called it, should he?
Well, Toby Perkins, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're very welcome.
Charlotte, I think the problem is that MPs are investigated by the Standards Commissioner regularly, often for inadvertent breaches, like failing to declare on time or not saying the right thing in a speech and not retracting it. I think there are 7 MPs under investigation right now for a variety of different supposed offences. It's the concentration, isn't it, on one particular party that seems to be the unfairness.
I think most people expect MP... I mean, people hate MPs, don't they?
That is absolutely true.
They all think that MPs have it too easy, they pay too much, and they're all rich and all the rest of it. And I think the problem that Reform UK will have, and that Nigel Farage has had, is that perhaps the defence has shifted on this a couple of times already. I think, actually, when you look at all the issues affecting the country, if you are a resident of Linton-on-Ouse or one of those villages in Oxfordshire near Banbury, you're going to care a lot more about those issues that affect you than what you already accept is that politicians are rich and they have very lovely lives and everyone is great to them. So I do think there is too much of a focus on it, perhaps, when we've got some serious issues.
And having seen the forms of how to make the declaration, I can understand how mistakes are made. They're very complicated. Well, that seems to be Nigel Farage's explanation at the moment. Well, it's time now for our Great British Giveaway. You have 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win £60,000 cash and a gold bar in our Golden Summer Celebration. Here's how you do it.
Welcome to Orlis Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer. And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won. That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it? You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted. Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of 5-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, good luck, folks. Well, coming up after the break, we've got a bit of a treat for you. Not one, not two, but 3 panellists will be here discussing all sorts in the papers, including the petition to keep 2 of PC Harper's killers in jail. Yes, look, Kwasi Kwarteng, Emma Trimble and Jonathan Liss all here after the break.
What a treat. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 29 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Charlie and Miriam, and we're joined in the studio by our triple panel this morning: former Chancellor of the Exchequer Kwasi Kwarteng, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and broadcaster Emma Trimble. Good morning to both of you. I think you've got about
all 3 of us.
Good morning also to Jonathan.
I think you've got about 90 seconds speaking time each, by my calculation, so better get on with it. Main news today: Emma Farage has won the election as predicted. Do you think the 62% vote share is enough to reaffirm his popularity?
I mean, I think they'll be pleased with it, but the question still remains: sort of, was it worth it? Was it just a sort of distraction? Is this actually going to pay off for reform in a reasonable, to the extent that, they've put so much effort into this, it's distracted them from other things. But he has increased his vote share. And the other benefit is that if they do have to run another by-election, they will have very up-to-date data on what's going on in the constituency. So there is a benefit there as well. I don't think it's a loss, but I think there's a question mark over whether it's enough of a benefit.
That's the question, isn't it, Kwasi? Because there's still that overhanging question of this 5 million quid. Critics of this process say, actually, we need to talk about the issues facing the country, not this donation.
So, look, I'll declare an interest. I mean, I'm an executive chair of a public company that Nigel Farage has invested in.
And I know people will want to know that before I comment.
A good news line for our channel.
And he's somebody I know. But look, I think the main thing is that clearly his critics and his opponents in Parliament are going to come after him. And I think the parliamentary standards will investigate, as they should do. I mean, it's their right to do, the donation. Now, we've got to wait and see what they decide, and then it'll go to, there'll be maybe a petition, and this whole election will have to happen again. And I think at that point, actually, it'll be more difficult for the other parties because they've sat this election out. They will pretty much have to contest the next by-election if there is one. And they'll be up against Count Binface as well. So
you've got good popularity, the bin man.
No, I think that we have to be honest about this. This is a complete car crash from start to finish for Nigel Farage. Everything that he was trying to do has backfired. He was trying to reclaim the narrative. He became a national joke for the entire summer. Yes, he might have increased his vote share against a bin. It's completely humiliating. He was so humiliated he didn't even show up to his own count. I can't remember a similar example of that in British politics of a newly elected MP not even having the guts to turn up to. Well, okay, well, we can. He said he didn't want to turn up with a group of nobodies, and Essex police have said there was no security.
If there is another by-election and we have to go through this whole thing again, what will the other parties do? They have to. Of course,
they'll contest that one because that will be as a result of malpractice on the part of an MP if he's found to have not declared this and against the parliamentary rules. That will obviously be a fair game. What they didn't want to do, which I think was absolutely the right decision, was to indulge Nigel Farage's vanity project. He said that he would pay for it. I mean, he just doesn't understand how these elections work. Can you imagine a party paying for its own by-election?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will think, what is the point in this process? Because another by-election, for example, because we know the serious popularity of Nigel Farage in Clacton. Is it not a benefit for critics of reform to run this again, purely just to keep the conversation about the £5 million rather than the housing over 1,000 illegal migrant men in Linton or News?
Well, I think, there's a risk with this as well that the voters will basically become fatigued by the time they have to go to yet another by-election.
Yes, the monthly by-election.
But I really do have to come back on what Jonathan said because it's just wild speculation to say he didn't turn up because he was humiliated. And
he said he didn't.
Hang on, no. The reason that Reform have given is that there was a credible security threat against Nigel Farage. Anne Widdecombe has just been murdered. We know that there have been threats on Nigel's life. So you can't say, even if the police force is saying that they didn't recommend that he didn't turn up to the count. If they have made the judgment that there was a credible threat against him and therefore he didn't show up, the last time that an MP didn't show up, I think it was Bobby Sands in the 80s or something.
He was in jail.
Yeah, but my point, you're saying
jail.
you don't remember the last time somebody didn't turn up. I'm saying that there is
in jail, Emma.
Okay, but them saying that they're saying that there was a credible.
Okay, but Nigel Farage
him.
literally said he wasn't going to. I think at least I read a quote. I thought that said he didn't want to show up with a group of nobodies on stage. Did he not say that? Did I invent that quote?
You can't minimise. I mean, I'm not
minimising anything. I'm not saying there are no threats against him.
Please don't interrupt. You've had a pretty good crack of things. There is a threat. Anne Widdecombe was murdered only less than a month ago. This is serious. People are getting killed. And I think it's absolutely within his rights to say, actually, there is a credible threat and I'm not going to show up.
And if it was a left-wing MP and they were one of the most threatened MPs in public life and they said there was a credible threat against them and you weren't privy to that information, you wouldn't question it.
We should say that the leader of Reform UK, he said that he wouldn't attend the count because he had a warning from the police of an organised campaign to disrupt the results, but Essex police have denied advising any candidates to avoid the event.
But that's two different things, isn't it? He's saying that there is credible threat that there's going to be disruption, and the police are saying we didn't advise anyone to stay away.
It's possible that
both of those things can be true.
It's possible his security team had more information about.
Yeah, but they said.
I mean, look, Nigel Farage is the leader of a political party that has until recently been leading the polls. He, as a major national politician, will be in public very, very often. So if there was a threat, then you would expect the police to be aware of that. And there will be, of course, there'll be threats to Nigel Farage going forward, but they'll have to be dealt with because he can't be sort of kept in behind closed doors the rest of his life.
Because he also said something.
Yes, he did, because he literally said there are nobodies on the stage who want to appear with him.
Right,
unless I misread the quote somewhere.
Jonathan, you had your chance. You'll do it again soon, don't worry. Kwasi, Emma, good to see you both. See you soon. Shortly, up next, what are you doing?
We are going over to Linton on Ouse, where the female population there are worried that they're going to be outnumbered by 6 migrants to every 1 woman if they're housed in an RAF base in North Yorkshire.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. See you in a moment. Gonna be...
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland, a few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A31 is closed at Junction 2 in Ringwood. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 7 and 5 near Southampton Airport. The M11 southbound has an incident at junction 14 in Girton. The M1 northbound has an obstruction between junctions 23A and 24 in Loughborough. In Scotland, the M74 southbound off slip at junction 19 is closed. Across Wales, the A470 from Doldalod to Rhayader is closed. And on the trains, southern services are facing major disruption between Lewis and Haywards Heath. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It is 20 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Charlie and Miriam.
Now, women in a tiny Yorkshire village are worried that they are soon set to be outnumbered 6 to 1 if Labour goes ahead with plans to allow thousands of migrants into the village.
Well, the local Labour MP, Rachel Maskell, has spoken out and warned of how plans to move 1,200 men into the RAF Linton on Ouse in North Yorkshire is unsuitable.
Well, our Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley joins us live from Linton on Ouse. Anna, some quite understandable widespread concern being heard today.
Good morning, Charlie and Miriam. Yes, certainly. We're here in Linton on Ouse, a village of 700 people. You can just see on the road here, there's just one road in and one road out to this village, and mainly tractors that we've seen going by so far and cyclists. So a quiet area, an area as well with not a great deal of infrastructure. We're just outside the village store at the moment, which is closed. We can see here there's a to let sign, so there's not even a local village store at the moment for people to go to. And we can see this sign here as well. Asylum centre, still the wrong plan, wrong place. And that references, of course, the plans back in 2022. I remember being here back then as well, those 3 years ago, speaking to residents who had exactly the same concerns. They said we've not got the infrastructure in place. And it's not just the infrastructure, of course, as well, it's safety concerns as well. People worried that 1,200 men, a minimum amount, that it could be up to 1,500 or more, coming in, potentially undocumented, not knowing their history. There's a local school nearby, a play park as well that borders right on to where the RAF base is, where that accommodation could potentially be. So there's a lot of concerns from residents, and speaking to people, there's not anyone in favour of it, like you've mentioned as well. Rachel Maskell, the York Outer MP, also Sir Alex Shelbrooke as well. He's the MP for Linton-on-Ouse. He disagrees. So does the Labour Mayor as well, David Skaith. There's no one really, other than the Home Office, thinking that this is a good idea. We spoke to John Smith earlier. He's a resident. He's trying to sell his property at the moment because of concerns of migrants being moved into this village, and he's also got a young 5-year-old daughter as well. He's worried about her safety as well as his wife's.
The plans are completely overwhelming. This is a village of 600 people or so. The plans to put 1,200 people in it puts us at a 2-to-1 ratio. That worsens when you change that to females or children, more like 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 and 18-to-1 against children. The plans are a safety concern. There's been no consultation, no visits from ministers or prime ministers who promised to listen. It's a real concern for all of us.
John there, who's also a member of the Linton-on-Ouse Action Group, echoing a lot of concerns that residents have got here, and they don't feel listened to either. They don't feel that any of these ministers that are making these decisions have actually come to the village and seen what it would be like for people here. The Home Office, of course, would say that they've got a mandate to try and save money, those millions, billions of pounds that are being spent on hotels for asylum accommodation, and that another idea would be looking into Ministry of Defence RAF bases like this one in Linton-on-Ouse to house those asylum seekers and to save money. But people here are certainly saying it's not the right place, it's not the right time, it wasn't in 2022, and nothing has changed now.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Anna Riley, for that report. Very important one indeed, Miriam, because I think people, when they hear about migrants being housed on military bases, there is still this misunderstanding they're not being detained.
Yes.
There's no... Being in a military base doesn't mean anything at all. They can just walk out the gate whenever they want, go into the local area. And I think if you're in an area like Linton-on-Ouse or many of the other villages where this has been an issue, thinking about some in Essex I've been to, and recently in Oxfordshire as well, your whole sense of safety changes overnight.
Yeah.
Immediately. You have, in this case, 1,200 men from God knows where, all over the world, with no vetting whatsoever. And the idea that, oh, if the accommodation's proper, it'll just be fine. No, they were going to be bored. They're going to be in the middle of nowhere, given some cash, they've got a phone, and they've got nothing to do. And that's one of the great joys of these places, because they're quite gentle and sweet. Not anymore.
That's one of the joys of living in a village, is that you know everybody, you know people's routines, you know who you can expect to see when you go out of your house, and that's all changed. I think the other aspect here is how somebody really quite on the left of the Labour Party, Rachel Maskell, who in the past has talked about refugees being welcome, saying, what does it matter if we have to wait another week for a hospital visit or if our class sizes are slightly bigger? So clearly thinking that the British people should be making sacrifices in order to house refugees. Well, now changing her tune when it's on the doorstep.
I think the footage coming out of these areas is going to be quite extraordinary. Right, it is 10:46. Up next here on Britain's Newsroom, Britain is buckling in the heatwave. More than 100 firefighters have been battling a wildfire in the West Midlands and Stourbridge, and also a train has derailed in East Sussex, injuring 20 people.
Don't go anywhere, you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The hot weather is not just restricted to the UK at the moment. Much of Western Europe are under an extreme heat wave, and also some thundery downpours. Across the Canary Islands, though, it's much more reasonable temperatures in the 30s here with plenty of sunshine. Outbreaks of heavy rain affecting more higher ground parts of the Pyrenees as well as the Alps, seeing intense thunderstorms over the next few days. But more coastal areas should remain dry and bright with plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Morris, tell us exactly what is going to happen here this evening.
So what we have this evening as part of the wider FLAD Coming to Belfast programme is essentially 2 hours of Northern Irish Unionist Ulster Scots culture, dance, tradition, music. So we'll have got about a cast of 200, and like you said, we're covering flute bands, traditional fife and drum with lambeg drums. We've got a piper in there as well, a couple of Highland dance groups. We've just seen one rehearse. They are absolutely fantastic, and some drum major from County Armagh as well. So it's 2 hours to do an absolute broad brush off the entire culture, and whenever you're trying to piece a show like that together, 2 hours just isn't enough.
Of course, you yourself spent a lot of time as a drum major outside this, didn't you? I mean, you served.
Yes, I did. I spent 23 years in the Household Division. I originally joined the Irish Guards, transferred to the Scots Guards.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Former NBA player Royce White says he's declaring for next year's women's NBA draft, claiming he now identifies as a female for the purpose of playing professional basketball. There he is on your screens. He's 6'8", he's massive, he's built like a brick, you know what. He's the former first-round pick in the NBA, which if you're not familiar with what the NBA is in the draft, basically when he was playing, he was all the NBA team's first choice for them to join his team. He was a quality player. He says he'd be unstoppable in the women's NBA and has vowed to use the women's changing room if allowed to compete. White, who is seeking the Republican Senate nomination in Minnesota, says he wants to expose what he sees as flaws in transgender inclusion rules in women's sport. And it all comes after former NBA star Enes Kanter, Freedom, also announced plans to declare for the 2027 women's NBA draft as well.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Fury over a royal funeral plan for shamed Andrew. Should he get a royal funeral?
Emphatically not. He is a private citizen. He lost his HRH title of prince and also stepped down from numerous patronages. He's being, of course, as we all know, investigated by the police. The facts of the matter are that he is in disgrace. As a private citizen, he should most emphatically not get a royal ceremonial funeral. This is a matter for the Cabinet Office of the Royal Household. I can only presume that it's something that they haven't attended to, because there would be public outrage. The last YouGov poll last month, his popularity is 2%. You can't get worse than that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Well, fire crews were called to a scene after a train derailed in Lewes in East Sussex yesterday.
Yes, at least 2 trains were seen lying on their side, leaving 2 people seriously injured. Experts have said that this has been linked to the recent hot weather.
Well, GB News reporter Isabel Fekulak joins us from Lewes. Isabel, bring us the latest on this derailment.
Well, good morning, Charlie and Miriam. Yes, I'm here on the scene where dozens of emergency response vehicles remain, including teams from different parties, police, the National Rail Service, and of course the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, who have launched an investigation to find out what happened yesterday at around 3:54 p.m. in the afternoon on a southern railway service from London Victoria to Eastbourne. Passengers on board the train describing a scene of absolute terrifying ordeal. I mean, they said that the train was rocking side to side. There was a loud bang, people flying everywhere, luggage flying everywhere, glass shattering, and as you say there, 2 people are seriously injured, 18 more with less serious injuries. The 2 that were seriously injured have been taken to a trauma site to be treated, and the rest remained, some in hospital, but many of them were able to go home last night. There was a response from the police. They said that some people were trapped in the carriage for a moment, but they were evacuated. And I spoke to a local here, a neighbour who lives just right by where this happened, which is just to the left of me. I can see the train on the left of me here, still turned over on its side on the tracks. And the neighbour said that when this happened, she heard a loud crunch. And today, as I say, it remains on the track. The response vehicles and people are trying to work out how they can get that train off the track so that services can resume. Of course, huge disruptions to the railway services here in East Sussex.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for that report. Now, a major incident has been declared in the West Midlands after a wildfire broke out, causing what has been described as apocalyptic scenes.
Well, our national reporter Jack Carson joins us live from Stourbridge. Jack, what's the latest?
Well, what we can say is that West Midlands Fire Service says 14 crews are still currently working here in Stourbridge to try and extinguish those hot spots and those areas that they believe could be at risk of re-ignition. Of course, we know that more than 6 houses have been destroyed within this, many of them gardens, as the fire spread across the railway line. Take a listen to one resident, Paul Nash, who we caught up with earlier on.
And our daughter looked outside and we saw the trees exploding basically along the railway track, heading towards us. So we just left immediately, left everything and just came out. Our next door neighbour's bungalow's gone. We dashed out of the house yesterday like this because everything was exploding at the back of us. And luckily we got friends who were staying with. We were 1 o'clock when we noticed it, and within a few minutes the fire and the police was there. But it was coming in different parcels, and they couldn't go from one area to the other to the other. The fire was beating them, truthfully. I mean, they've done a wonderful job, but if it's isolated, they could have done it, but it wasn't isolated. It looked as though it was coming from 3 different positions.
Well, thank you, Jack. Now, an investigation into Nigel Farage's donations has been reopened following his victory in Clacton. We'll have the latest. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So quite a humid and warm night in the south and east. Elsewhere, though, much fresher temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees for many rural areas in particular, so much more comfortable for sleeping to start the weekend. There's plenty of dry weather on the cards for this weekend across the UK, plenty of sunshine as well, and it will feel cooler than it has done lately. It will continue to see showers across more northwestern areas, quite light though, and for most of us it's going to be a dry and warm weekend with temperatures much closer to average in the mid-20s. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win over £65,000 in prizes. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner. First of all, we want to give you £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It's 11 a.m. on Friday, the 14th of August. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Well, the main news today, Nigel Farage has won the Clacton by-election with over 22,000 votes.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election.
But the Reform UK leader did not attend the count, claiming that police warned of an organised plot to disrupt the declaration.
Having won a resounding victory, a ringing endorsement of all that I've tried to fight for and you try to fight for, and be demeaned and humiliated by nobodies, and I will not, sadly, be attending the count.
The Tories have accused Nigel Farage of inventing absurd reasons to avoid being humiliated, as Count Binface came second with over 9,000 votes. You'll see, though, the Conservatives not on that list.
Indeed. Well, could it be back to square one now for Farage, as an investigation into his donations has been reopened following that victory? Well, the Labour Party chair, Bridget Phillipson, spoke to GB News earlier.
You know, there is no hiding place now for Nigel Farage on these really big questions that he refuses to answer. They're put to him by journalists, and he refuses to answer them even to journalists.
Nigel Farage emerges from the Clacton by-election with more support locally, more votes for him, yet the same old problems remain, an inquiry into his finances. And guess what? That could bring us back all the way to Clacton again in a few months' time.
This is a large and complex incident that has occurred on one of the hottest days of the year. Our fire control team have been dealing with thousands of 999 calls.
Well, Britain is buckling in yet another heat wave as more than 100 firefighters have been battling a wildfire in the West Midlands, and a train has derailed in East Sussex.
Well, West Midlands Fire Service confirmed that 14 crews are still on the scene this morning to be able to extinguish hotspots that still exist and also monitor those areas that they believe could reignite. As you say, more than 100 firefighters tried to tackle this blaze yesterday.
Well, dozens of responders remain on the scene here as that Southern Railway train is turned on the track still. 2 people seriously injured, and the Rail Accident Investigation Branch are working out what exactly happened last night.
And would you live next door to Crowber or next door to a migrant camp?
Well, look, I mean, I'm in a constituency that's had asylum hotels as well.
Happy, would you, with your children?
Look, I do understand, but look, we've got to put people somewhere.
Well, a migrant barracks backlash. A Labour MP breaks ranks and calls plans to house migrants at an RAF base in North Yorkshire unsuitable.
Could we be going back to Clacton in just a few months' time, do it all over again, back to square one? That's the question being posed today. And here's one of my own for you, Miriam, and indeed for you at home, gbnews.com/your say. Was it a missed opportunity not attending the count? I think all this concern about these minor, foolish, comedic candidates, all the rest of it, being humiliating or embarrassing for Nigel Farage, I think it's overblown. I think he's allowed perhaps that fear to build up in his own mind. What could have been more powerful for him is to stand up there and say, these lot are jokes. I'm the MP. Let's now talk about the serious issues that you've all been avoiding because you'd rather be talking about a bin. That could have been a big option, a big opportunity for Nigel Farage. You know, let's cut all the nonsense and let's talk about Linton or News.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these areas that are being affected.
He called this election to have a platform to speak about those things, and I think you might be right. He's lost that platform, certainly temporarily. And also, yes, it may have appeared humiliating. There would have been some joke photos circulating on the internet, but he would have had the opportunity to stand up and make a speech, to explain why he called the by-election, to thank the voters of Clacton for coming out, which they did. 44% is pretty high turnout for a by-election, especially one that wasn't strictly necessary, and he didn't have that opportunity. And he cancelled a speech at 10:30 that we would have broadcast live, where he would have spoken about, I assume, the next steps for reform. Again, we understand security concerns. Of course, you can't underestimate those security concerns, but it sounds as though the threat was about disorder and disruption rather than a specific threat in itself.
Well, lots to get cracking on with in this last hour of the programme. But first, let's cross over to Sam Francis, who has all the latest news headlines.
Very good morning to you. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story this hour, Nigel Farage has won Clacton back, but the investigation that followed him out of Parliament has followed him straight back in. The Parliamentary Standards Watchdog is looking at whether the Reform UK leader should have declared a £5 million gift from the billionaire Christopher Harborne. Mr Farage says he has not broken the rules, insisting that the money was purely personal and used for security. But Conservative MP Kevin Hollinrake says the by-election result doesn't draw a line under the controversy, and he says that questions over the money still need to be answered.
Nigel Farage must be held to the same standards as everybody else in Parliament. That's what all this is about. His choice to spend £250,000 of taxpayers' money on a by-election, a fake by-election. There'll be, if he's proven of wrongdoing, then there'll be potentially another by-election down the track. If he's not, of course, if he's exonerated, well, we can all move on, and that's what could have happened in the first place.
Rail accident investigators are at the scene of a train derailment in East Sussex this morning, which left 2 people seriously injured and 18 others hurt. Around 150 passengers were on board the Southern service from London Victoria to Eastbourne when 3 carriages came off the track near Lewes yesterday afternoon. Passengers described a terrifying few seconds on board, with one saying there was a bang before everything went topsy-turvy and the carriage fell onto its side. Everyone has now been evacuated and investigators are working to find out what caused the crash. In the Midlands, homes have burned and families have fled as firefighters have also been taken to hospital after wildfires spread across the region. Crews were called to major blazes in Stourbridge, Stoke-on-Trent, Pershore, Castle Vale and Stratford-upon-Avon. Witnesses have described apocalyptic scenes with smoke filling the sky, flames jumping across roads and rescue centres opening for people forced out of their homes. In Stourbridge, around 100 firefighters have been sent to a huge grass fire, with homes affected and people urged to stay indoors. Well, that comes after the UK recorded its hottest day of the year and the 5th hottest day ever measured in the country. Temperatures hit 38.1 degrees at Kew Gardens in West London yesterday, with several other parts of England also climbing into the high 30s. Amber heat health alerts remain in place today across England, with hospitals under pressure and millions facing water restrictions. The Met Office says this is the UK's 5th heatwave of the year so far, and that this summer is on course to become the hottest on record. More than 1 million people have now signed a petition calling for PC Andrew Harper's killers to be kept in prison. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole are due to be released next year, just halfway through their 13-year sentences for manslaughter. PC Harper was killed in the line of duty in 2019 after he was dragged behind a car as the men fled a quad bike theft. Prime Minister Andy Burnham says he is turning over every stone to try to stop their early release, with 50 policing leaders also urging him to use every lawful option available. And staying with the ongoing row over those prison releases, a convicted killer who murdered his estranged wife will stay behind bars after the High Court blocked his release. Glyn Razzle was jailed for life in 2003 for murdering Linda Razzle, who vanished on her way to work during their divorce. The parole board, though, has ruled that he could be freed on licence, but the Ministry of Justice challenged that decision. Now, a High Court judge has quashed the ruling, saying she's not satisfied the public would be safe if Razzle was released. And Andy Burnham has said that he wants to go further in cutting business rates for high street firms. The Prime Minister's already announced support for pubs, social clubs and live music venues, but says there is still more to do. He'll meet small business owners in Devon today, promising to listen to what they need to plan for the long term. Mr Burnham says that local businesses are the beating heart of communities and wants to look more broadly at support in the autumn budget. Those are the 11 o'clock headlines for you. More news shortly. Now, though, it's back to Charlie and Miriam.
Thank you very much, Sam. Well, hello and welcome. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Charlie Peters and Miriam Cates.
Now, Nigel Farage has been re-elected in Clacton as the MP in what he says is an overwhelming victory.
Yes, Mr Farage refused, though, to attend the by-election count overnight after Essex Police warned him of an organised campaign to disrupt and degrade the result.
The Conservatives, they've accused him of inventing absurd reasons to avoid being humiliated. I can imagine Reform might return to that, saying, what was your reason for avoid being humiliated by not standing in that election? Also, an investigation into Mr Farage's donations has been reopened following his victory in the Clacton by-election. So are we back to square one again?
Well, someone who can probably answer that question is GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope. He's still in Clacton, having been there all night with very little, probably no sleep. Good morning, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us. What are the big takeaways from overnight? Clearly, Nigel Farage has won. That was expected. But what question has it answered in the minds of Reform voters?
That's a great question. It's not really clear to me what questions have been answered. What is certain is that Nigel Farage emerges today as a stronger MP for Clacton. He's got 1,000 more votes than he had back in July 2024. Back then he stood with 5 weeks' notice and then the general election. This time he's had 38 days to find out where people live. He's got a lot more data for the next time he's put in front of voters, which could be if in a by-election by Christmas, if he's found against him in the House of Commons. I think he's someone, though, who has to take on this investigation by the Standards Commissioner. I interviewed him at 1 a.m. This morning at Farage Fest. It's a big event dubbed Clactonbury, but a bit like Glastonbury. when he walked up and spoke to us for GB News, he gave an indication, I think, that he may now feel he could have been more open and filled in forms better when thinking about some of the financial issues or declarations he's had from people giving him gifts. Here's what he told me this morning.
Look, this is an overwhelming endorsement of me. I have had enough of being judged by mainstream media, being called a criminal. Do you know, if I've made one sin, it's I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I've broken no law, I've broken no tax law, I've taken no public money, I don't even own a motorhome, all right? And, you know, maybe I haven't filled in a piece of paper. I'm confident I'm right. We'll see where we go.
So I find that quite significant. I may have filled in a piece of paper wrongly or whatever. He thinks he's done nothing wrong, but that's the first indication that this investigation may be going against him, and that, of course, could lead to him being banned from Parliament for a few days, and that, in turn, if it's a certain number of days, could lead to a referendum amongst the people of Clacton, and then another by-election. This morning I've been trying to find people here from Clacton, not tourists, but from Clacton, and asking how they feel about Nigel Farage being returned as their local MP.
I don't think it was necessary. I think he's got the support of Clacton anyway. You can see that. I don't think it was necessary. I think it's a slight waste of money, but I think he's got to do that because they keep attacking him. Simple as that.
I think he'll be a very good Prime Minister, and pray that he will be Prime Minister soon.
I'm not sure why he actually called it, but I think he's been vindicated with the result in as much that his vote share has gone up and the percentage on a lower turnout has improved. So I suppose, yeah, but if the other parties don't want to stand and they all got behind Binface, I think Binface will have to leave with his lid between his legs.
So there you have it. People of Clacton, of course, approaching GB News and our camera. They want to talk about Nigel Farage in a positive way. I failed to find any of the 9,000 or so voters who voted for Count Binface last night. He was the only other candidate who didn't lose their deposit. They pay 500 quid when you stand to be an MP in our country. For the record, Binface was the best performing novelty candidate ever, 6 times more votes than Screaming Lord Such in Rotherham in 1994. We move on. We are back to where we were, which simply is another investigation. It carries on, the same one I should say, into Nigel Farage. He would see it as a battle against the establishment, and he would say, look, I've gained 1,000 votes in a non-jeopardy by-election. I've done well. Of course, his opponents say it was a bit of an August waste of time in the sun. It's cost us £250,000 of taxpayers' money. I should say, by the way, Andy Burnham's return to number 10, that cost us £5 million, the cost of a by-election in Greater Manchester, and also that Makerfield local MP by-election there too. So politics cost money, but Nigel Farage, he's back in Westminster on Monday with Robert Jenrick with a new policy announcement.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much for that report. It is 14 minutes past 11. Let's cross over now to the Conservative peer and polling analyst, Lord Robert Hayward. Good morning to you, Lord Hayward. Thank you very much for your time. A question we're asking today, really, is this win definitive enough for Nigel Farage? Is it enough for him to say they won't bother with a recall petition? Or do those 10,000 or so votes for Count Binface force a few more questions?
There's no question that it's a good result, as Chris Hope said, a good result for Nigel Farage. I'd set a bar that any figure that he achieved over 20,000 would be a good one for him. He's achieved that. So he has reaffirmed his position. But as you've identified, the inquiry into the money concerned, the 5 million, etc., will be restarted, and there could well be a further by-election. Whether there would be another by-election will be ultimately a decision of the voters in Clacton, because you have to, the Commission takes a decision, it makes a recommendation. If a recommendation meets the sets of criteria, and there's several different criteria, then it could then result in a petition of voters in a constituency, and the bar is set at 10% of the voters signing a petition asking for the by-election.
Now, Lord Hayward, one of the problems facing Reform UK and Nigel Farage is that although the party itself has been leading in the polls for some time, dipped below Labour for the time being, but they've been the most popular party for a year or so, Farage's personal approval ratings are very negative. He has a lot of very loyal fans, but also a large proportion of the population that really dislikes him and would frankly vote for anybody else. How are they going to overcome this personality problem that Farage seems to have accumulated over the last year or so?
Miriam, first of all, please call me Robert. But
Robert,
in answer to the question, as a political party, the reform is more linked to the popularity of Nigel Farage than any other party. Kemi Badenoch has been rising, for example, markedly in the polls. Andy Burnham's got a bounce, but that hasn't necessarily taken the Conservative Party up that much more markedly, or the Labour Party for that matter. The Reform Party do face a problem because, as you say, there's a large number of people who like Nigel Farage, utterly committed, but the number of people who are opposed to him and strongly opposed is rising. The don't knows, who previously wouldn't have registered, are visibly, in terms of the polls, moving ever more heavily against Nigel Farage in the population at large. So while he's got a mandate from Clacton, the figures for Reform and Nigel Farage from other parts of the country are not looking that good.
All right, Lord, call me Robert Hayward. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Very grateful for your insights. I think we can't be too surprised, perhaps, Miriam, that a Conservative peer has that in his analysis, but I think he's got a point. You know, he may be popular in Clacton, but I think all this stuff does have an effect in sort of the wider view. But I know I've been saying it all morning, when it comes down to the key issues affecting the country, what will people care about when they go in to vote next? Will it be a donation, or will it be thousands of illegal migrants being put up in a village?
Yeah,
there we go.
Good question. Well, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway. You have just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win £60,000 in cash and a gold bar. Our golden summer celebration. Here's how you enter.
Welcome to Orlisanti by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating a golden summer.
And you could be enjoying a golden year with an incredible £60,000 to be won.
That's tax-free cash that you'll get to spend on anything you like. What would you do with it?
You could relax knowing that we've got those day-to-day financial pressures sorted.
Or find yourself celebrating in the lap of five-star luxury, somewhere like here, the Spritzeria.
Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 that you can keep or gift to a loved one.
Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck. Coming up next, we will be continuing the Clacton Fest and more with our panel of 3, Kwasi Kwarteng, Emma Trimble and Jonathan Liss. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo, every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Charlie and Miriam.
We have in the studio a panel of three: the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and the broadcaster Emma Trimble. Welcome back, you three. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Very well, thank you. Together. Unbelievable.
In unison.
Emma Trimble.
It's like a school assembly.
Well, we just realised that we all went to the
Good
same...
morning, everybody.
We just realised we went to the same college at Cambridge.
Good morning, Charlie and Miriam.
Right, shall we do some news? Let's talk about Clacton. We just heard from the Conservative pollster, Emma, talking about Sir Lord Hayward to you, talking about concerns that people might have about Nigel Farage's broader national popularity. He might be doing fabulously in Clacton, but this is affecting his wider standing. Is that a concern you share?
Well, I mean, Clacton is not necessarily representative of the whole country. This is a point that has been made, by others, not just the pollster. Reform do seem to be sort of plateauing in the national polls. And there was also, I think there was a poll done of Reform voters that suggested that quite a large number of them were concerned about the whole scandal around the donation. So I don't know whether or not what we've seen in Clacton necessarily maps onto national public opinion or Reform public opinion at large. I don't think it's necessarily going to create a kind of bounce for Reform. But what it has done is it's drawn attention away from Andy Burnham onto Nigel Farage, and also a time when we're seeing so many stories in the press about migration, which is obviously Reform's bread and butter. And so I think that actually, because Reform are the only party that are really serious about dealing with particularly the small boats crisis, that is more likely, I think, than this by-election result to sort of gee up the Reform popularity.
Kwasi, what do you make of the Conservatives' response this morning, saying that essentially Farage is running scared? We're in the Conservative Party running scared by not putting up a candidate.
I think the Conservative Party did the right thing. Nigel Farage called this by-election. It was clearly the case that the parliamentary inquiry was going to happen anyway. And it's very likely that there'll be a second by-election. So for the Tories to say, actually, we're not going to compete in the election that he's called, but we're going to wait for the parliamentary standards, I think is completely reasonable.
Jonathan, the reason that Farage gave for not attending the count last night when he was at this party was that...
Farage Fest.
The Farage
Fest.
Fest. Let's give it its proper name.
Festival, please.
Party, festival. What's the difference? Was that he didn't want to be humiliated in front of what he called a group of nobodies.
Yeah, exactly as I said in the last segment.
But there also seems to be separately a security concern, certainly that his own personal security had about his attendance at the event. Do you think it's perfectly reasonable, given everything that's happened in recent months and years, for Farage to take those threats seriously?
Of course, Of course, Farage has to take threats against him seriously. Of course, there are threats against Farage, and I would never seek to belittle any threats against any MP. The point I was making before was that he himself used the word humiliated by nobodies, and I'm afraid that is not a good enough reason not to turn up to your own election count. You're going to, as a potential Prime Minister, as a candidate for Prime Minister, you're going to have to subject yourself to people who disagree with you, obviously in a non-violent way. So I think that was a measure of the man, actually. It was cowardice, and let's face it, it really exposed the whole by-election of what it was, which was a total humiliation, which did not serve the principal objective, which was to get rid of these allegations. Because even if the people in your constituency support you, you still have to follow the rules. Everyone has to follow the rules. And the problem that Farage has, a bit like his hero Donald Trump, is that he thinks rules don't apply to him. And so just come back, if I may, to the point that we were talking about, the popularity. I think this has been a really harmful episode, because the one thing that a politician hates is to become an object of ridicule. People can dislike you, but they can respect you. Farage, has many, many qualities, and I respect those. But one thing he's never been is a figure of fun, and now he is. And also, the £5 million thing is now kind of putting him in this box where he's the same as all the others. That he's lost his sheen, and together with Starmer out, who is one of the main factors in his rise in popularity, and Burnham in, who has his own popularity, currently the most popular politician in the UK, that is bad news for Farage, and that is why reform is slipping down the pulse.
This is a slightly absurd debate. We're in the middle of August. We've had a Prime Minister who's only been for 3 weeks, and things are going to start becoming very different when Parliament comes back in September, when we have the party conferences, the budget, the autumn. We'll see, I think, a shift in the political mood. I don't know what the result will be, but this is very it's synthetic and artificial, this debate.
But you'll agree, Kwasi, won't you? Sorry, that Burnham's having a bounce. The Burnham is much more...
He's been on holiday for 2 or 3 weeks.
The fundamental problem is
definitely having a bounce, right? But I don't think the bounce will last.
Okay, but isn't the thing...
I mean, everyone has a bounce.
Of course, but Starmer was not a good politician.
But he had a bounce.
But Burnham is a good politician.
Look, I think he's a more capable politician than Starmer, which is a very low bar. I mean, Starmer was a disaster. Politically. But I do think that this is unreal. We're in the middle of August. Sure. The Prime Minister's barely been in office for 3 weeks, a month, barely. And we actually have to just wait and see what happens in the autumn.
Of course. Can I let Emma speak on this for a moment? Because a question I have for you is, will more and more strategists within Labour start talking about an early election as this drags on again, thinking, as Kwasi said, as Parliament comes back, as Burnham faces more and more difficult questions, his October budget, that will be a stressful business for him, as he's fielding more responses to questions about putting illegal migrants in small villages around the country, might he think, I've got to go straight away while this is hanging over my main challenger? Because later, I won't be having the bounce anymore.
I think the more time that passes, the less likely it is that they will call an early general election. I also think that we may have passed the point at which it would have made strategic sense for Labour to do that, because the bounce has been a fairly small one. And, even though Parliament's in recess, he's barely been around, he's been on holiday for 2 weeks, and he hasn't faced the kind of scrutiny that other people would in their first weeks in office, because it's the summer and so on. I think that we've seen quite a small bounce, and as soon as he gets stuck in to all of this stuff we've seen around Piddington, the early release scheme and the release of PC Harper's murderers, there are so many things that have already happened in this early period of him being in office, that I think that as soon as he gets stuck in after recess, I think the ship is already
sailed. But fundamentally, he's a more dexterous and likeable politician, and he knows how to handle. He's agile.
I don't agree with that. I think he's better than Starmer.
Should we just stick on the PC Harper story? This is something we've been covering a lot on GBNews, and we learnt this morning that the petition to keep his killers in jail, for them not to be subject to the early release scheme, has reached 1 million signatures. It's quite significant.
Yeah, and I think that Burnham has identified this as an important sort of moral case, as well as a key political issue for him, and that is why he's instructed the Justice Secretary to find a way to do this legally, because you can't obviously single out 2 prisoners, but you can expand the definition around the boundary for early release, and I think that's what the government's doing.
Because we're hearing also from ministers saying that they need to continue with this release scheme because it's going to otherwise prevent new killers, new, more dangerous people from being locked up. Is there a lack of political imagination and policy ideas going on here?
It's purely a political problem, because the politicians decide, the government decides who they let out and who they retain. And I think with this early release scheme with PC Harper's Killers, this is a political disaster for the government. Andy Burnham came in and, as always, set expectations high. He paused the scheme. He has to do something different, because if he's paused it and nothing happens, this will be an embarrassment for him. And as Emma said, I think we're in a situation where when Parliament comes back, he'll be under so much more scrutiny than has been the case up to now. And I think things will be very different.
So I think that people are prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. And also, there is a very good, there is a convincing attack line that the government has, of course, which is that the Conservatives left the prisons and the judicial system in general in such a parlous state that the government had to let people out early. And now even Conservatives
the government decides who to let out. That's what this is about. It's not about saying we're going to have to let out anyone. It's about who are you actually letting out. And in this case of PC Harper's Killers, this is a total nonsense.
I think it's also that the legislation here is not a response to an immediate crisis. This is a change in the criminal justice system, which is a point that Jacob Rees-Mogg has said, that Andy Burnham, in a sense, is misleading the public by saying that this is because there's an emergency situation in our prisons. This legislation creates a permanent situation in which prisoners will be released early. I think, Charlie, you mentioned the lack of political imagination. Reform were criticised for the suggestion that you could rent, prison spaces in places like El Salvador, for example.
More ideas like this.
But at least they were coming up with clever and canny solutions to what is a political problem and what is a political choice. And I think the problem of Andy Burnham is that when the Parliament gets back from recess, he's not going to be hitting the ground running, because all of these problems have already mounted up while MPs have been away on their holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to the Philip Webster audiobook yesterday. I know how to spend my Thursday nights well. He's a former political editor of The Times, and we were listening to the chapter of the decisions made or not made by Gordon Brown in 2008, the 3 clear opportunities when he should have called that early general election. I really do feel as though they are repeating those mistakes now.
It's very easy to say that, but he has a majority of 170. We only had a general election 2 years ago.
But he'll lose that majority if he waits 3 years. He might have a reduced
I'll tell you when he'll lose it. I tell you, if he calls an election, he will lose that majority.
He'll annoy
There's
people.
He'll annoy people.
People don't want snap elections.
That's showing them even having a majority. Let alone one of 170.
It's a really stupid idea, and to his credit, he's not entertaining it.
That big majority is very, very difficult to enforce discipline.
I promise you, it's a lot easier than...
Exactly.
It's a lot easier having a majority of 170, no matter how rebellious the MPs are, than having a hung parliament and having to rely on Lib Dems.
There is no clear party on the right at the moment, at least in part due to this Standards Commissioner issue hanging over Nigel Farage. There's a realistic possibility that gets cleared up in the next year or two, and perhaps it's more likely that Reform then surge and take over that position.
I don't think they'll surge.
Maybe not, but there's a greater possibility of that than right now, when you've got the 2 right-wing parties at each other's necks, and both of them around the same sort of area, give or take 3 or 4 points. Emma, you think it would be smarter for him to go now in that scenario, perhaps?
I think it would benefit. It benefits Reform to not have an early election.
Absolutely.
And I think it benefits the right in general to not have an early election. Partly because I think that Andy Burnham is going to do a really bad job.
They need to work out.
And by the time we do get to the next general election, hopefully the right will have sorted its act out.
What does that mean, though?
And won't be splitting the vote.
I mean, does that mean that do people, the right-wing people in the country have a massive conference where they decide whether to support Farage or
no, because the right are currently... the right...
I'd love to go to that.
Sign me up. The right are currently doing what the left did, which is attacking itself.
It's called pluralism.
And as far as the British public are concerned, I think, the immigration issue is viewed as existential, because it is. There are so many fires that need fighting, and the British public need the right to unite to ensure that we don't get another left-wing government.
What does that mean to unite? I mean, we've had different parts on the left for many, many years. We can have different parts on the right for many years. That's called a pluralistic media, political environment, and we should be celebrating it.
OK. Right, Kwasi...
Triumphant triumvirate or something like that. I've been thinking about that all morning, Charlie. Let me get that in.
The top trio, let's keep it simple.
Top
right,
trio,
you three, thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm sure we'll see at least 2 of you again soon.
Voting is over now.
Yeah. Right, up next here on Britain's Newsroom, why is Britain buckling in the heat? Wildfires have been spreading across the West Midlands, and we've also seen that horror on the 224, the train derailing in East Sussex. We'll have the latest on that.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It is still hot and sunny in the southeast, albeit not as hot as yesterday. Elsewhere, slightly colder, fresher feel to things for sure. There's a front making its way southeastwards, albeit quite gradually and not bringing a huge amount of rain, but there is a bit more cloud mixed in because of that front that's making its way across the country. So many northern western parts of England and Wales having more cloud than yesterday, and towards the northwest there will be quite a bit of cloud as well. A few outbreaks of showery rain here and there, nothing especially heavy for the time being. As I mentioned, still hot in the southeast, but temperatures down markedly on yesterday. Nonetheless, highs of around 35, possibly 36 Celsius. Fresher feel elsewhere, especially with the cloud, less sunshine, so not feeling as hot. That's probably a good thing from many people's point of view. Into the evening, and a few showers continuing across parts of Scotland. Eastern areas, Aberdeenshire, could see some bright sunny weather perhaps, but elsewhere quite cloudy, a bit damp at times. A similar story across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming in, particularly across the west. And then across England and Wales, well, cloudier across northern and western parts, a few showery bursts of rain here and there for the time being, but actually as we go overnight and through the early hours of tomorrow morning, well, that's when we could see some fairly hefty showers developing across some parts of eastern England, Lincolnshire, East Anglia, maybe affecting London as well. They could be heavy, they could be thundery. Do watch out for some potentially fairly intense downpours. It is going to be a relatively warm night, not as oppressively warm as last night for many of us, but nonetheless, temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens Celsius. And then tomorrow, still some showers across the southeast first thing, a few heavy ones perhaps, but they clear away, and most of the showers elsewhere will actually ease a little bit, albeit towards the northwest of Scotland. Some showery rain continuing to push in here. Cloudier towards the north and west, perhaps some parts in the southeast having cloud. Elsewhere, some bright sunny weather, but a fresher feel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 11:39 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom with Charlie and Miriam. Have people been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say? I had one person writing in a few minutes ago, Miriam, saying that I think they're called Dom. They're on the phone to someone and saying they heard their relation screaming in the distance, and they're wondering, are they watching GB News? And someone over there had said, yes, they are indeed watching GB News. They were angered at something. Didn't specify what they were angered at, but some people have been riled up this morning and had written in to let us know about that, which is very pleasant. Have you seen anything interesting on the Your Says?
It's not lit.
Complete silence from you there.
Nothing, Charlie, that I can read out safely without being investigated by Ofcom, so perhaps we'll leave it at that. But I think there is an important point here, isn't it? We are here to provide balance and challenge to all of our guests, whichever side of the political spectrum they may sit on.
Too right. OK, shall we talk about this 5th heatwave now? Good grief. Looking forward to the 6th, because it's been battering Britain. More than 100 firefighters are dealing with a wildfire in the West Midlands and Stourbridge. A total of 54 patients have been treated by paramedics, so it's an escalating situation there.
And some experts believe that this derailment in Sussex of a train is also due to the heatwave.
Let's start in the West Midlands, speak to our national reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, what's the latest there? Some of the pictures that we've seen overnight of people evacuating from their homes, quite dramatic.
yeah, almost apocalyptic scenes, because it's not, of course, just been here in Stourbridge. It's been in the wider West Midlands. The West Midlands Fire Service saying they've been dealing with thousands of 999 calls over the past 24 hours. Just to give you the latest on what we've got here at the scene at Stourbridge, you can see the cordon behind me, some of the fire service resources that they've been using. Today, this morning, they are still saying working on hot spots, particularly around open grassland and also along the railway embankment and in gardens. People we've spoken to this morning, residents, have told us just the size of the flames that they saw and how quickly they were sweeping up that embankment of the railway gardens. In fact, take a listen to one resident called Paul Nash, who told me this earlier on.
And our daughter looked outside and we saw the trees exploding basically along the railway track heading towards us. So we just left immediately, left everything and just came out. Our next door neighbour's bungalow's gone. We dashed out of the house yesterday like this because everything was exploding at the back of us. And luckily we got friends who were staying with. We were 1 o'clock when we noticed it, and within a few minutes the fire and the police was there. But it was coming in different parcels, and they couldn't go from one area to the other to the other. The fire was beating them, truthfully. I mean, they've done a wonderful job, but if it's isolated, they could have done it, but it wasn't isolated. It looked as though it was coming from 3 different positions.
There, you can just hear from what he was saying, just how quickly this fire was spreading, and the fire service saying themselves this morning just how that almost singed grass from no kind of rain in the past few weeks and months, how dry the ground has been, that grassland. We know more than 40 acres of it destroyed because of this fire in Stourbridge yesterday. That allowed the fire to just spread so quickly. Other residents saying that with the wind it was almost the perfect storm to be able to almost get this out of control, and that has made the fire service's job so much harder. But residents here are so thankful to them and the work that they have done tirelessly over the past evening also to be able to get this under control. As I said, the fire service this morning saying that their priorities remain the same: to dampen down affected areas, extinguish hotspots and prevent further fire spread. As I was saying, this is not just here in Stourbridge, it's across the West Midlands, and that's where the West Midlands Ambulance Service say across the whole region 54 patients have been treated by paramedics, including 19 who were taken to hospital as a result of fires in the region yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much for that update, Jack Carson. He'll be across all of that as it develops. Let's bring in now Isabel Fekulak, who joins us from Lewis, where that train has derailed. Isabel, what can you tell us about the emergency response there? Oh, we can't hear Isabel, unfortunately. I wonder if we'll be able to... Oh, we've got her now.
Hello, guys. I don't know if you can hear me now, but I'm here. I'm pretty much as close as you can get, with more response units arriving as we speak. The teams here that are on site, you've got Network Rail, Sussex Police, and of course the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, who are looking into exactly what caused that derailment yesterday. Well, it was at about 4 o'clock when it happened, around 36 degrees here in Lewis. So lots of speculation that the hot weather played a part and that the railway may have buckled, causing it to overturn. The train is to my left and you can still see it's on its side, the rear 3 carriages. It's quite a rural location here, so going to be hard for responders to remove that from the tracks. Of course, lots of disruption still for the railway lines. All lines between Lewis and Haywards Heath currently closed, with rail replacement buses and alternative routes people being told to use those alternative routes. Now, the community here said that it's an absolute miracle no one was killed. Of course, there are 2 people who were seriously injured, 18 more injured, but certainly some people feeling like they are very lucky this morning. Will Godley was here last night. He spoke to a member of the public who was meant to be on that train. Take a look.
I was supposed to get on it. I was in London and I stayed behind with a friend. There was a part of me that thought I need to rush for the train, and then I thought, nope, I'm not going to. I'm just going to take my time. I'll wait for the next one. Obviously got on the next one, and then we were literally behind the train at Plumpton. Everything just stopped. We didn't know what happened at the time, and then between that time of obviously stopping and then speaking to local people, we found out that the train had actually toppled. I spoke to my partner and I thought, bloody hell, you know, like I was literally meant to be on that train, so I'm going to buy a lottery ticket tonight.
Isabel Fekidak, thank you for that report.
Well, up next, we're going to go over to Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire. Women have said that they are worried they will be outnumbered 6-1 by these migrants who are set to be settled at the RAF base in the small North Yorkshire area. This comes after Andy Burnham said that middle-class areas should play their part in accepting illegal migrants' small boat crossing accommodation in their areas. I think is leading many to ask, Miriam, why don't the government play their part and stop this nonsense?
Absolutely. It is within their gift to solve it. It is difficult. Legal changes might be required, but nevertheless, it's not up to people who've consistently voted against weak borders.
Right, but first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, let's take a look at the forecast for the top European destinations. See you in a moment.
Looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The hot weather is not just restricted to the UK at the moment. Much of Western Europe are under an extreme heat wave. And also some thundery downpours. Across the Canary Islands, though, it's much more reasonable temperatures in the 30s here with plenty of sunshine. Outbreaks of heavy rain affecting more higher ground parts of the Pyrenees as well as the Alps, seeing intense thunderstorms over the next few days. But more coastal areas should remain dry and bright with plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Bev Turner, why is Britain worth fighting for and celebrating?
Well, having spent, nearly a year now in America, I'm always interested to see what other people think about the UK. Americans always talk to me about our history. When President Trump had the state visit, he obviously went away and thought everything that King Charles has, he wants a bit of that, a new ballroom, etc. And I think personally, for me, it's about we are the mother of all parliaments, so that history is real, law, the rule of law, and also our sense of humour.
And I tell you one of the things I think is so great about Britain, and they get a lot of flack, but I think our royal family is fantastic. When I saw that image of the Queen earlier, I had a lump in my throat, because we all miss her, don't we?
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Nursery rhymes are sexist and they are reinforcing gender stereotypes. This is according to academics in Pakistan. They've issued this warning to parents, saying that some nursery rhymes could reinforce gender stereotypes and they need to be cautious about singing them to their children.
It is absolutely absurd.
It's pretty bonkers.
It's absurd. Which one's the most sexist one?
So Jack and Jill Went Up the Hill is problematic because it places the male character first.
That's because
symbolising leadership.
Jill rhymes with hill and Jack doesn't. What do these academics in Pakistan not understand?
No, it's a fantastic point. Also, Little Miss Muffet in Little Bo Peep portrays femininity as emotionally weak because a spider frightens her.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And the fact that she doesn't know where to find them implies confusion and dependence.
The People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
British engineering giant JCB's bid to set a world hydrogen land speed record is surging ahead in Utah, isn't it?
Yeah, the company unveiled its aim to set the record with its JCB Hydromax car.
Well, Ben Leo, our GB News chief US correspondent, had the time of his life, didn't he? And he sent this report from Utah.
Welcome to one of the flattest places on Earth. GB News is here at the Bonneville Salt Plains in the great state of Utah in America to witness British engineering history. Later today, JCB is bidding to break the hydrogen-powered land speed record in a car of their own making for the first time in nearly 20 years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Labour MP Rachel Maskell has spoken out and warned of how plans to move 1,200 men into RAF Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire is unsuitable.
Well, let's speak to Anna Riley, our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, who joins us live from Linton-on-Ouse for all the latest. Anna.
Good morning, Charlie and Miriam. Yes, we're here at Linton-on-Ouse, a village in North Yorkshire of around 700 people. We're just outside the village hall. Of course, it's a former RAF base. We can see the proud armed forces history here all across the village, but there's concerns here that bringing 1,200 male asylum seekers into the village to live in the to be formed of accommodation from this former military base would cause a lot of concern to residents here. They say that there's not the infrastructure in place just over the road. There's a store that's closed at the moment. They don't have the facilities, the capacity, and there's also concerns for safety as well. Of course, these people, if they were to move into this base, could freely roam around the village. There's a local school nearby. The park that children play on also borders the RAF base. So there's concerns from parents, concerns from women as well, because they'd be outnumbered 1 to 6 by these men coming in. And there's a Linton-on-Ouse action group as well, residents coming together to campaign against this. We spoke to Professor Olga Matthias earlier. This is what she told us.
We've got the possibility of quadrupling the population when all those services are already at breaking point. So that's one reason. The government really ought to spend some serious time developing a proper, thought-out policy for the kind of immigration we want and how we will handle it in this country.
So what will be your message to Andy Burnham?
Please stop with the gimmicks and the sound bites. Please actually do your job, make some serious decisions, and if you want to listen to the people, do so by asking your MPs.
Thank you, Anna, for that report. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. I'm back tomorrow for Saturday Morning Live.
Coming up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Emily and Cameron.
Yes, coming up on the show, of course, reaction to Nigel Farage's win last night. What does it mean in terms of a parliamentary investigation? Is it all an establishment media witch hunt? But also, Edwina Curry, the former Conservative MP, she says that what a village like Piddington that's been asked to have 1,200 migrants needs is a brothel. We'll reveal all.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A considerably cooler day to come for many of us. Still quite hot in the south and east, but not quite as exceptionally hot as yesterday. Cloud and rains pushed in from the north and west overnight, so some outbreaks of showery rain are likely across some more north and western areas. Across many central and eastern areas, though, it's going to remain very hot and sunny throughout the day. There's a risk of some fairly heavy showers across more northwestern areas, but the showers aren't going to be quite as heavy as yesterday, and temperatures will be a little bit lower. Quite widely across parts of more western Wales, western England, temperatures a good 5 or 6 degrees cooler than yesterday. Still, though, in the low 30s in the south and east. Into this evening, showers will continue across parts of northwestern Scotland in particular. A few of these are moving into more eastern and southern areas, but I think it should stay largely dry across southern and eastern Scotland. Similar story for parts of Northern Ireland. A few showers just pushing in from the north and west, and you can see some showery rain across parts of southern England. I think it's going to be quite light and just mainly cloud when it does move in, but that is a weather front pushing eastwards. It will continue to push eastwards throughout Friday night into Saturday morning, and as that moves into the more humid air in the south and east, we could see some heavier showers across parts of southern eastern England to start the day on Saturday. So